Hello and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Scott Harrison. Our guest today is Lexington's newest City Council member, Frank Friedman. He grew up in Lexington and attended Hampden-Sydney College. He was a City Council member from 2007 to 2010 and has also served on Lexington City School Board. He is the Vice President and Financial Advisor at the Cornerstone Bank in Lexington. Mr. Friedman, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so let me start off by asking, you lost an election 2 years ago for City Council, so why the decision to go at it again this year?
Never had any hesitation or doubt about the willingness and desire to serve the citizens of Lexington and be an active participant in the process of the management, for lack of better terminology, of our city, specifically looking at setting policies and procedures and being involved. Okay,
and you received the most votes out of anybody this time around. Mm-hmm. What did you do differently?
When I first ran for office in the fall of 2006, and check that, in 2006, the elections were actually held in May. The municipal elections were held in May. And there was one sign for all the candidates. There were 5 of us that time running. I had the only sign, and it was one my, at the time, third grade son made for me, and I put in the window of my car. Fast forward to Obama's first election, and the city council elections have been moved from May to November, and there were a tremendous amount of enthusiasm and, if you will, political activity, i.e. raising money, signs, bumper stickers, pencils and pens, the whole 9 yards. And I chose not to do that 2 years ago when I ran, thinking this is Lexington. People will base you on your merit, not on whether or not you have signs and pencils to hand out. I subsequently lost, and was encouraged by some of my friends and family to run again, and this time to have a campaign, seek solicitation or solicit contributions, and purchase signs and other marketing material.
And with your past experience on City Council, what do you plan to bring to the table this time around?
Really not much different than I brought last time, which, as I mentioned, I'm a townie. Having grown up here, I have a unique perspective of Lexington than some of my counterparts that are on council that have lived other places. I had the distinct honor and privilege of living in Jacksonville, Florida, and Richmond, Virginia, so I bring the experiences of living there. But one of the most important things for a successful council, in my opinion, is working collaboratively and unified. And I haven't, with the number of split votes and controversial issues that have been raised, I don't feel the current council is working in a unified manner. I don't know that I can do anything other than be responsible for myself, but when we adjourn and walk away from the council meeting, we're citizens. And my perception is that some folks have taken the role of council as a full-time job 24 hours a day, and that's really not the case. We're merely council members when we're in session.
And what sort of big issues do you think are going to be important this upcoming year?
To me, I don't know what all the agenda will embrace. That's something that's done the first month or two of a new council with the city manager and the entire body. The mayor certainly sets the agenda, and I don't know what Mayor Elrod has as priorities at this point, but personally I will constantly and continuously advocate for education and a responsible budget.
Okay, and do you think that the city is going to be able to go ahead and open the new Waddell Elementary on time?
Well, I don't know of a timetable, so to do it on time, I'm not sure, other than to say when I was on the school board, we had hoped to already have Waddell replaced by now, so it's already behind schedule. I'm not sure what the current price tag is for accomplishing Waddell. I know the city manager has been working hard to put together some numbers and have people understand what it's going to cost the citizens of Lexington to maintain an independent school system and build a new Waddell. I don't know those numbers exactly, but as I get ramped up in the current, or in January with the current council, we'll be embracing that and trying to figure out how best to serve the citizens and specifically the children of Lexington.
Have you been in conversations with anybody on the board or the city council right now about what's been going on and
Sure.
maybe get familiar with what's the big issues and stuff like that?
Well, yes. I've attended a couple of the council meetings. There are a few items, and the city manager does a terrific job of providing information on a weekly basis to the media as well as to all the council members to keep us apprised. Running the city is really the city manager's job. Setting the policy and procedures for him to run it successfully is the job of council. So again, when we look at education being unequivocally the business of Lexington between the universities and our public school system, and then having a responsible budget. So, flags, chickens, there are lots of ancillary issues out there that probably need to be dealt with on the level of the city manager, not the level of council.
And from a business standpoint, there's been this talk about a downtown enhancement plan. Mm-hmm. The consultants presented a number of plans a few weeks back. What do you think about those plans? Have you taken a look at them?
I've attended all the meetings. There's a select group that the mayor has that's been meeting with the consultants, and I think they have a little bit more information and have been a little bit deeper in the weeds looking at this process. But there's no question there are opportunities for Lexington to continue to thrive, and we can't, it's a bit of a cliche, but we can't stand still. We've got to be thinking about ways to attract visitors, make the experience to Lexington very enjoyable so people will continue to come back and continue to be tourist spenders when they come back. And looking at the plan specifically, the first session, of course, was brainstorming. The second session was some pie-in-the-sky ideas, and there were a lot of neat ideas. I'm really looking forward to the third session where there's some specific recommendations with, I believe, some price tags, so you can look and see what might make sense and what it will cost. But one thing I can tell you that I found interesting, and the question I raised to a couple of the consultants was, when you look at the bump outs and putting trees downtown, that's a terrific idea and a terrific concept. The city of Lexington imposed great measures to ensure that the diagram and the build out of the central business district is immortalized in stone on the corner of Lot 1 there at Nelson and Main. And to completely adjust that with bump outs or diagonal parking or some other changes seems odd when you value the historic integrity of your architecture and your streetscape. So I'm not sure how that conflict gets resolved, but one of the consultants, when I raised the issue to him, and then when I spoke with some people at Historic Lexington, they also kind of scratched their heads and said, yeah, maybe we need to be more sensitive to that, because I don't think that's been on the plate or on the radar quite as substantial. And
do you think people, I think there's this expectation that this is going to be like a big overhaul with downtown. Do you think their expectations are going to be met, or the impact's going to be that great? It
certainly will depend upon what happens. I think there'll be people that are pleased with what happens. And one thing I learned definitively on my time on council, and more specifically on school board, was that any decision you make, there are going to be fans and there are going to be disappointments. So unequivocally, there'll be both camps. I'm not so sure that downtown Lexington needs a huge revamp right now, personally. I'm willing to listen and hear and see what folks have to say, which is why I've attended these and been real in tune to the consultants. One of the things that I don't think most people realize, and certainly yourself, you haven't been in Lexington since 2000, but when the Lexington Presbyterian Church burned, it created a construction project for it to be rebuilt. When the new courthouse was being created, there was construction that was being done. When the old courthouse was renovated, again, another construction project. Cornerstone was a miserable, messy construction project. Rana has been a messy construction project. We've got the Robert E. Lee starting now. So for a little over 12 years, I would argue, we've been in the midst of a construction site. And VMI is talking about doing a substantial project. And that's also going to be another construction site. So until we can get our construction completed, I don't know that we can see a whole lot of progress.
All right, well, I think that's all the time we have for this afternoon. Mr. Friedman, I really appreciate you joining us this afternoon, and thank you so much again. That was Frank Friedman, newest City Council member in Lexington. For the Rockbridge Report, I'm Scott Harrison.